Hey everyone, welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Now, in this video, I'm going to finally give you guys my rankings of every film in the Scream franchise. Now, I wanted to allow plenty of time to pass since Scream 5 came out in January to ensure that my initial feelings of where I feel it fits in the whole of the franchise is still the way I feel today, and whether or not I'm still comfortable with my rankings. Well, I finally decided I've let enough time lapse. I still feel good and confident in my rankings. And so now the time has come to finally make my Scream film rankings official. Let's go. Now, before I get started, I first need to explain my ranking system and how I came to my decisions. To determine my ranking order, I first broke down each Scream film in 8 categories with a scoring system of 1 to 5 stars for each. Now, the cumulative average of all the categories together determines the overall rating for each film on a 1 to 5 scale scoring system. So, obviously 5 stars being the highest possible score, and 1 star being the lowest possible score. So here are the categories. You see, we have fit within the franchise, genre expectations, the story, the acting performance, visuals and cinematography, the characters themselves, the rewatchability factor, is it rewatchable? And then my own personal rating, which is just my own overall subjective opinion of the films. So that is the scoring criteria for each of these films that I used to determine how many stars and thus what ranking these films are going to shake down to be for me. Again, this is just my opinion. This is my rankings. Everyone has a different opinion. And I understand and respect that. And I actually kind of love that. We all have very different rankings, and I think that's pretty darn cool. But you know what? I want to go on record with my rankings so you guys will know exactly what I feel about these films. So let's get started. Let's go. Here we go with my 5th ranked film.
Number 5. Scream 5.
So coming in at number 5 is Scream 5. As you see here, my overall ranking for this film is 2.7 stars out of 5. And you'll see here as we go through the criteria, regarding fitting within the franchise, I gave it a 3. Genre expectations was a 3. That was fine. The story, I gave it a 3.5. I didn't think the story was too bad. I thought it was a pretty decent story. The acting, though, took a hit. 2.75, and I've mentioned this before, and I was not impressed with the performance of Melissa Barrera in the role of Sam, and some of the other acting as well just didn't really get an opportunity to shine. And it may not necessarily be on the actors, it may be just the nature of the production itself and how little time there was for a lot of character development with these cast members. So unfortunately, it has to take a hit for me here. Next up, visuals and cinematography. Things start getting brutal, guys. I give it a 2.5, which is, again, it's average. It's, it's not below the halfway mark, but it's right at it. So 2.5, because I've voiced these things many times. I'm not a fan rather, of the look of most of this film. It's shot very, very tight, and there's very few wide shots at all. And I really missed that a ton. I know this isn't as big of a deal for some people, and as far as the cinematography and the look, but it's one for me that I really pay attention to when I watch a movie. And so I was very, very disappointed after coming from the previous 4, which were all very well, widely shot films, to this very narrow, focused, just extremely tight. I'll say it, extremely tight on the actors and the scenes. Okay, next up is the characters. Again, 2.5. I just was not that impressed with the characters. There were a couple of standouts in my book. I did really enjoy the character of Richie, and I enjoyed the character of Tara. Those were the two that really, to me, were head and shoulders above all of the other cast members in this film, as far as the new cast members and the new core 4 that we have. Those two were the stars in my book. And of course, love the work of Dewey, David Arquette, just unbelievable. And what an arc for Dewey. Hated to see him go, but great performance, great character development for him. And same goes for Gail and Sydney. So that's what's keeping this category from going lower, is because of their performances. All right, so that's where I stand on this in terms of characters. Now the next one is the rewatchability factor. Again, I gave it 2.5 out of 5. I think that it's not the worst movie. Like, it's not a bad movie even. It's a good movie, and I'll be the first to tell you, if you've not seen Scream 5, go watch it. It's a good watch. It's a love letter to Wes, and they did that part right, and I enjoyed that. But as far as rewatchability, does it continue to shine? Does it continue to pick up on things here and there like you do in the other films? I can't say that it's that way. I've seen the movie 9 times, and I honestly, after every time I watch it, I almost kind of pick up things I didn't like about it more each time versus things that I like and miss. The opposite effect. So I'll just, again, I'm thankful we have it, and I will watch it again, but it's not going to be. It's definitely low for me on rewatchable factor. And finally, for Scream 5, my personal rating, again, 2.5 stars out of 5, right in the middle, and that's kind of where I think this movie is. I think it's kind of much just hits right in the middle on most of the categories. But anyway, guys, that's my ranking for Scream 5. It is the 5th ranked in the franchise for me. All right, now let's move on to my number 4 ranked Scream film.
Number 4. Scream 3.
So yes, my 4th ranked Scream film is Scream 3 with an overall rating of 3.3 stars out of 5. And as you can see here, I gave it a 3 for fitting in the franchise. I give it a 2.5 for genre expectations, only because it is the least gory, the least amount of blood on any of the Scream films. And we all know the reason for that. It was the climate at the time with the Columbine tragedy, and the studios were all scaling back on violence. And so it did suffer from that in terms of meeting expectations for a slasher. But, again, not terrible, but it definitely took a hit. So that's a 2.5. As far as the story goes, again, 3.5 for the story. I enjoyed the story. The whole thing about the stab, the movie there being made again, and we've got the Roman story. I enjoyed the whole thing. The Maureen Prescott was featured in this film. It's kind of Maureen's movie, and I really enjoyed the story. Acting again, 3.5 here as well. I thought they did a great job. I loved the guest stars. Parker Posey being the shining star in my book for the new cast members in the film. And then, of course, the OG cast, great job as always. Venom visuals and cinematography, a solid 4. I thought that Wes did a great job with cinematography. He always did, just was masterful at that. And so I gave that a 4. For characters, I gave it a 3 for characters. Again, a lot of these folks that were in this movie were they were acting, playing the parts of the the real people, right? So the characters were, I put it at a 3 because there wasn't a lot of really stand out new characters other than, again, Parker Posey playing Jennifer. She did such a great job. I loved her banter with Gail throughout the film. They were a great pairing. So other than her, though, there wasn't like a lot of stand out characters, very interesting characters outside of her, I should say. The rewatchability factor, I gave it a 3.5. I love to watch the movie. It's a fun movie. It's kind of one of those where you can just turn on in the background, do your thing, have it on, listening to it, catching it. It's just a fun movie. I think it's very rewatchable. I call this one the Scooby-Doo on steroids version of a Scream movie. And then finally, my personal rating, again, 3.5. That's where I put it. Personally, out of 5. There's a lot of things I like about it. It's not a perfect movie. We know that, but it's a fun movie. And I think it deserves a lot more appreciation in general than it receives in the fandom. And so I'm going to be one of those that is a champion of Scream 3. And I think it's really fun. And I would say if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch it. Because I do believe this one does get better as you see it over and over again. You really start to pick up the rhythm and flow for this movie upon multiple watches. Okay, now it's time for my third ranked Scream film.
Number 3. Scream 2.
Okay, for my third ranked film, it is Scream 2, coming in with an overall rating of 4.0 stars out of 5. And as you can see here on the categories, this movie absolutely nailed it in my book. It was a great fit within the franchise. Great expectations were met for what it was as a slasher. They did an amazing job there. I give the story a 3.75. Still really good story. Just a little bit below the 4 mark, though. However, it's not a terrible thing at all. It still was a really good story. And I did love the acting. Acting was great. There were some great performances from not only the OG cast, but some of these new folks did a really good job. I was very happy with the performance of Derek and Haley. I know these are the character names, but all of them, Mickey, the actors all did such a great job in the roles that they played. I thought it was top notch. Even Sarah Michelle Gellar, was being Cece, all that. Her acting was great. Everyone did such a good job. I was very pleased. Visuals and cinematography, also very happy about it. As always, Wes Craven delivers. He knew how to shoot a film, how to make movies, and visually this looked fantastic. Characters, again, kind of going hand in hand with the acting. Not only did I like the acting of the actors, but the characters themselves I thought were really well written. Solid job, Kevin Williamson. Great characters and great character development, which is a staple for both Wes and Kevin. Let's be honest, they both are masters of that. And then the rewatchability factor for me is there at 4. I could absolutely, again, watch this movie anytime. I could have no problems if you came over and said, hey, let's pop in Scream 2 or we're working on this project here or there. Absolutely. I can just throw that thing on any and every time it comes out. And then finally, the personal rating is a 4 as well. Just my own personal, where I just, it's from 1 to 5. How do I feel about this movie? I think it's one of the very best sequels ever made in the horror genre, a direct sequel to an original which was considered by many, including myself, to be a masterpiece. I think that it was a well done, especially considering Wes Craven turned this thing around in less than 1 year after the original. It looks phenomenal. It's well done. So yeah, I love it. It's my third ranked Scream film. Now, guys, let's get on to my second ranked film in the franchise.
Number 2. Scream 4.
So coming in at number 2, yes, it is Scream 4, just narrowly edging over Scream 2 with an overall ranking of 4.1 stars. This movie is absolutely fantastic. It's one that I love to watch over and over again. I felt it was Wes Craven coming back, kicking tail, bringing back the brutality to Scream after what had happened with Scream 3, where he had to pull back and restrain so much. And now to see him come back and just letting us as fans have it between the eyes with brutality. As you can see my rankings, everything here is a 4 for expectations for both the franchise, the genre, the story, the acting, all those are 4s. Now the visuals and cinematography is a 3, and that's only because of, yes, we all know it's got that glow, that little glowing tint, like someone kind of rubbed Vaseline on the lens, and it's got that glowing effect. Don't know why Wes did that. I know there had to have been a reason that he chose to do it that way, and we'll never know what that reason was. I never heard him ever be asked about it or address it in interviews before he had passed away. So I think it was tied in to something with the storyline. I really do. I've always felt like there was a reason for that to look that way, and maybe we would have found out in his 5 and 6 of the trilogy he wanted to do a second time, that we would have found some more information about that. But anyway, that's the reason why that's a 3. But the characters, 4.5. I enjoy the characters. We've got, of course, Kirby, which was a great standout. We have Robbie, who I really enjoyed as well. Thought he was a fun character. And my favorite of the new characters, Jill Roberts. Absolutely loved Jill's performance, as a character in this movie. I loved Emma Roberts' portrayal of her in the film. Loved her reveal at the end. All of that blew my mind. It was amazing. Never saw it coming. And her level of brutality and the self-mutilation was another level. Wes took it next level. So love the characters. A rewatchable factor, again, not 4.5 stars. I think it's an absolutely rewatchable movie. You watch it over and over again and still enjoy it, and I have, and we'll continue to do so. So anyway, it's got that. And then finally, my own personal rating. Yeah, you guys know how much I love this movie. 4.5. I enjoy it. It's my favorite film after number 1, which we're about to find out next. It's time for my number 1 ranked Scream film. And I know this is no surprise. Let's go.
Number 1. Scream 1996.
So, of course, Scream 1 is my number 1 favorite of the franchise. In fact, this movie is my number 1 most favorite horror film of all time of any franchise. I have scored this film a perfect 5 stars. And I say it all the time. You've heard it on the channel here. I believe that this is indeed a perfect film, or as close to a perfect film as you will ever find. From every single aspect, the production of the movie, the direction, the cinematography, the performances, the score. The Marco Beltrami score is fantastic. And everything, all of Wes Craven's signature marks, I guess, are here. You know, the building of the tension, the delivery of and execution of these scenes is perfection. Every time I watch it, it just, again, gets better and better. So yeah, number 1 is without a doubt Scream 1. And of course, within all of these categories you see, I score everything a perfect 5. Yeah, you may say, man, you're probably just a little bit biased. Yeah, maybe so. And that's okay, because it's my favorite film. So as far as fitting within the franchise, it's the gold standard. It is the franchise. It's the film that every sequel will forever be compared to, will forever try to achieve the same level of, but it is untouchable. It's on a shelf that is untouchable. It's the original. It's, again, the gold standard. It's the Wes Craven masterpiece. And as far as genre expectations, absolutely. This checks every box for a slasher film, and it does a lot more than that. Most slasher films are pretty mindless movies. They're just killer shows up, stabs, kills people, and then you just hope you get some creative kills. And this, though, this is a whole nother direction. Wes and Kevin made not only an amazing slasher film, but they made a slasher film that has a brain. A movie that has smart. A movie that has characters who are smart, who are self-aware, who are aware of horror movies and how they work, and actually deliver commentary on films that you and I watch. They commentary on Halloween, on Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street. So many others are all included into this. So it's so rare to see a slasher film where the story itself is smart, but the characters are as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Blows away genre expectations, and it established an entire new era of horror in the late 90s and early 2000s of copycat films that were all trying desperately to be the next Scream. None of them ever achieved it. Some of them turned out to be good films, but it's incredible. I mean, for years, it was everyone copying Scream, the formula, trying to make it work. So that says how powerful this movie is in the history of horror. Now, the story, absolutely fantastic story. It is all of these layers with Sidney, with Maureen Prescott, her mother, and then you've got Billy and Stu, and you've got the whole backstory of the 1 year from her mother's death, the anniversary, and then the circumstances. All of these things, just great story, great layers, and then the story that goes on within the flow of the film with Gail Weathers, her whole ambitious, self-driven, ambitious intentions, and then you've got, of course, Dewey being Dewey, who I just love. And you've got this cast of characters, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But yeah, the story itself, though, very well written, great layers, and it just continues to peel back the onion the further the movie goes. So great job on the story. Kevin Williamson, it's a masterpiece story, and Wes Craven with the execution. Now, the acting in the film, again, is great. Most of these turned out to be great stars. They were young and unknown at this period. When this film was made, really only Courtney Cox had a real significant a career going with Friends. Friends was at the height of its popularity when she was cast for this role. So she was outside of Drew Barrymore, which of course Drew Barrymore was the most touted hiring or casting before the movie came out. She was expected to be the final girl. We all know what happens there. So her role is short, but her role is impactful and legendary at this point in horror. Anybody you talk to, it's a legendary scene, that opening kill for Scream. But outside of that, we've got Courtney Cox, of course. And then you have our array of younger stars. You have Neve Campbell, who was on Party of Five. She had done Wild Things, but there wasn't a whole lot of, her resume was short. She was young, just getting started. And the same goes with Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. They all had some things they've done, but this was essentially their coming out party. This is what put them on the map in Hollywood, and Jamie Kennedy as well. So they all delivered what I believe to be fantastic performances. Rose McGowan as Tatum, the best friend. All of those actors did what I consider to be execution. They were really good. I believed them all. I don't ever feel anyone's out of place. I think their performances are all 100% giving of themselves to the script. All right. Next up, visuals, cinematography. I don't have to spend a lot of time on this. These shots are amazing. You look at some of these wide shots Wes films outside of the houses with the landscape. Wes knows how to film a movie. He knew how to to make a scene breathe by its surroundings. And instead of suffocating you as a viewer with a tight shot like we get in Scream 5 so many times, where it's such a tight framing, Wes knew how to do these wide shots where the surroundings, the things going on the peripheral, if you will, were just as much a part of that story as the script and the characters in focus of the camera. So good stuff, great cinematography, great visuals, 100% number 5 stars. Again, the characters now, I touched on a little bit earlier, just great characters, all of them with their unique personalities, and they gelled so well together. And of course, the Kevin Williamson dialogue, I mean, he's one of the very best at writing dialogue. He knows how to write it in a way that it just flows and it connects and it just feels natural. And that's what happens with these characters, with Tatum and Randy and Stu, Billy, Sydney, all of them, and all the characters. Even Principal Embry is a great character. Kenny, I love Kenny, the cameraman. He's a great guy. What a great character. He's got a small part, but he's in a lot of scenes, and I just like him. He's a very likable guy. So all the characters in this movie, Sydney's dad, in fact, even Dewey's mom, all of them do great jobs. They're great characters. They're likable. And for whatever amount of screen time they get respectively, I feel like they're enjoyable to watch. And that's what I want to see in characters. And then the last two here, rewatchability. Oh my gosh, a 5. This is like a 10 out of 5, if you would. The rewatchable factor of Scream is through the roof, and I guarantee you, it just gets better and better every time I watch it again. I just watched it literally yesterday again, and it just gets better and better. I just enjoy it. It's like sitting back, with the best friend and having a conversation again. It's so well done, so fun, and the rewatchable factor is crazy. So it's through the roof. And then of course my personal rating is what it is. It's a 5 out of 5. It's my favorite for all the reasons I just gave you, and there's a lot more too. But for the sake of time, I'll leave it at that. All right, everyone. Now, I want to know what you think about my Scream franchise rankings. Do your rankings line up with mine, or do you have them ranked completely different? I want to know your thoughts about it. What are your rankings and your ideas about the films and why you ranked them the way you did? So start leaving your comments below right now so we can discuss it together. Well, that is it for this update, guys, but I'll be back soon with more Scream and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thanks for watching.